so much traffic out there that they're tracking all the time. Well, if that's so, there's a lot of baddies out there and there's a lot of goodies. I mean, everybody out there is not good. So if we're being visited over millenniums, well, some of them will be pulling in here and they'll be the baddies, I guess. And there's probably some of them doing a few experiments and checking over us, and some of them helping us and egging us along. I think that's been happening right through history. They've never been away from the place. And they're not aliens, they're us. We are them. Because that's where we come from, that's what I believe. They put us here in the first place. We're a colony of some sort, and then something happened, we got blocked off. But that, again, if you want sort of to prove that this goes right back in history.
Where's the evidence of baddies?
Pardon?
Where's the evidence of baddies out there?
I don't know, it's just logic to me. Well, you come back to, I believe you can never have a one-sided thing. There's always two sides to a story. And if you had a one-sided thing right through the universe, you'd have nothing to compare it with. You wouldn't know whether you're good or bad. Pardon?
It's only what you expect from your own personal experience.
Sure, yeah, but what's bad to you might be good for me. And vice versa. It depends on the level of badness and level of goodness. And there's no such thing as absolute badness and absolute goodness. Because, say, take food, you might eat something that's harmful to you, but I eat it that's good for me. And you can go to lots of things like that. But you must have two sides. You can't have a one-sided thing. The universe is not one-sided, it's two-sided. And everything in it is two-sided. And there's always two sides to an argument.
I was just thinking of the story of the hollow earth theory.
Well, I'm not sure. I put something in one of my books and it appeared mathematically that the earth should be hollow, but I can't prove it completely. It appeared to me that there's some mass missing there somewhere. And but the holes in the poles, if they're there, they're not as big as they've been published. They're only small holes. And because according to the maths, if you take a cross section through the earth, and this is what I'll show you when it comes back to electroculture, and you find out the actual area of the earth cross section in minute of arc values, in other words in square minute of arc values, well you get figure it's 371 something. I've got the exact figure, I can calculate any time you like. There's a bit more in there than all. But the reciprocal of that gives you the answer to the univocate equation. So the earth itself is tuned to the univocate equation, or the vice versa. That's where all the stuff comes from. And if you feed the values of C, because C is not a constant, as I say, it changes. Well, it depends. There's a C for gravity, there's C at various levels up to get to a maximum 144,000, and feed it into that equation. If you drop the 144,000 by a mathematical 1618.034, which is a mathematical constant in the physics books, and feed that result into that equation, you get 269,444. The reciprocal of that is 371 point something. So the actual cross-sectional area of the earth is the reciprocal of the univocate equation. And again, I'll show you how it fits with a number of years, days in a year and all that. And everything is perfectly balanced. It's all very well created so that everything is harmonised with everything else. And this is probably can get onto atomic bombs, and I'll mention that figure now. Now, before I get that, before I could prove any of this stuff, the academics used to have a great time with me. They say a circle is a circle fair enough, but man cut it up into 360 degrees. And you based all your stuff on 360 degrees, so okay, it's an arbitrary figure, you're wrong. You cannot prove anything. And I couldn't answer them, I had no answer, because I was using 1 minute of arc, which is 1/60th of a degree. And I was getting answers, but I had no proof. And then there was another chap wrote a book in England, Mitchell. I forget the name of the book. I wrote this in one of my books. But, sorry? Yes, that's the one. And he wrote in his book about the Pythagoras Triangle. Now that triangle is taught in all schools. In my day it was Theorem 48 in the geometry books. And it says that the square on the hypotenuse is the sum of the squares on the other two sides. But it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Now, if we say that the maximum speed of light is 144,000, which is in the Bible, minutes of arc per grid second, so if we take 144,000, now that's a full wave. Now, in all radio theory and electronic transmission, you can take a half wave or a quarter wave. So if we take a quarter wave, a half wave of 72,000, we knock the noughts off because we don't need them as harmonic. And this is the beauty of this stuff, we don't need noughts. And multiply each side in ratio of half C, you get 316, 216 and 288. Now 288 is 2C, that's 360 degrees and there are 21,000 minutes in a circle. So that was the proof I wanted. Pythagoras has proved it. That triangle gives you the answer that a circle is harmonically tuned to the speed of light, 360 degrees, and the number of minutes in the circle. And it's unbreakable. And as soon as I found out, they backed off. They could not argue with it. And I said, I'll argue with you any time you like on TV, you name it. And none of them would take on me. And they've shut up ever since. Because you can't go against Pythagoras. So that's the basis of all this stuff harmonically. It's a geometric, fundamental harmonic process. Let's have a look at atom bombs. I've got a lot of other stuff here, but we'll just do that because I've mentioned that figure. If Einstein said that the whole of reality is manifested by the geometrics of space and time, if you really think about it, if you're going to disrupt matter, you must use that basis. You must use geometrics, but you must use it in reverse to disrupt matter. You must set up a proposition in geometrics. And it took me a while to figure this one out, but I started checking atom tests. I had a funny feeling that I could find something there that might help me. And page 52. If I could find a tie-up with that, I knew that I was away. And this is what I found. It's a bit hard to see, I'll have to explain it as it were. But just by checking, I started trying to figure out now how their geometrics work. How they, fair enough, I could find where they detonated atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all their test grounds. And I started checking those to start with, and I found that they were getting harmonic answers that fit in with this stuff. So obviously they were picking points that were harmonically tuned to these unified equations. But where was the trigger? What was the rest of it? So just had a hunch. I started checking the position of the sun, because I figured now our immediate geometric entity is the solar system. This is our whole thing in one packet. So maybe, and this even goes into probably astrology, that the sun position had something to do with the detonation of a bomb. So I started collecting the times of bomb explosions and checking where they were exploding in, like Mura and other places in Nevada, and then checking where the sun position was at that exact time. And I found that I could actually produce a spherical triangle on the Earth's surface. And say the bomb position was there. What am I doing? No, sorry. Go back to front. Say the bomb position was there. Okay, you've got a longitude line there, and if you put the latitude through where the sun was at that instant, you've got a triangle. And I had a triangle I could put on the calculator and work out. So when I started working them out, I found I was getting these harmonic things. These distances were harmonic. 26944s and 16944s, and so I found the secret. The sun is the final trigger of an atomic explosion. Everything's set up, and when the sun passes through that point, because the sun is never in the one position at any time. It's, if you think of the Earth, looking from an Earth point of view, the sun goes up maximum up there and one there in our winter and summer, but it's always circling around the Earth, appears to be. Gets down there and it goes back again. So in any 1 year, there are only 2 instants of time where that sun is in that exact position, going up and coming down. So they've got two times to explode a bomb that's been set up geometrically for that particular time. And so if you've got the bomb set up, the bomb is geometric, it's built geometrically, and you can read that in any book. They'll even just about show you how to build it. And at the time of explosion, some of them have got the stuff all around in a sphere around it, and they inflate it into the centre. And they say that makes the critical mass and it explodes. Well, but that's not the final thing. When that happens is when that sun passes through that final point. So the sun is there on its trip down. That is the final trigger. And then everything is disrupted. In other words, atomic bomb appears to be a geometric motion device. In other words, they've got to match up all the relative motions of the atoms and electrons, but they've got to work it in an opposite direction and zero all those relative motions. And as soon as they do that, the thing falls to bits, and you've got an explosion. So now that was the secret. And when they found out that I knew that, well, all hell broke loose. I started getting visited by security people and all sorts of guys, you know. And then a CIA member, which was in Auckland, he contacted me. I didn't know at the time he was CIA, but I had contact with him for 18 months. And he started teaching me things. And I started to twig that he wasn't who he thought he was, you know, who he told me he was. He was somebody else. And anyway, in the end, after those 18 months, he said, well, could you work out a bomb test? I said, what bomb test? He said, oh, there's one being carried out from the Aleutians. So he said, I won't tell you when, but it's sometime in a few weeks' time. Can you work it out? And I said, well, I don't know, because I only knew so much. And luckily they didn't know how little I did know. I just knew the system. I couldn't work out all the permutations, but I had a go. So I said, oh, I'll try. So I spent 2 hours, and he'd rung me at 8 o'clock that night, and I spent 2 hours, and I rang me back at 10, and I said, well, I've got one position or time I think could be it. And said, okay, so he took it down, and 2 nights later he rang me back, and he said, oh, you're wrong. And I said, well, fair enough. I said, that's all I know. I can't do anything else. That's the edge of my limits. And another couple of days went by, and he rang back and said, oh, you're right. And I think he's trying to test me to see whether I back off. You know, so anyway, I said, well, fair enough. And he said, if it goes off, he said, I'll talk to you some more. Well, I knew then who he was. It must have been somebody from intelligence. So 3 weeks went by, and the Saturday came up, and the bomb went off. And I was 2 hours out. I wasn't exactly on time that way, but it was near enough in 3 weeks. And I knew the phone had to ring. So all afternoon went by, and 7 or I think it was 7:30 that night, the phone rang. It was him. And he started sort of floundering a bit on the phone. And I started chuckling on the phone. I said, boy, you've got a problem. And he said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you have the problem. You know, I haven't got a problem. And he said, you know what I mean? I said, well, I think you've got to offer me a job. And this went on like this for a little while. He's hedging, and then he admitted, he said, yeah, fair enough. And this is what they had to do. I knew they had to try and get me out of the way, because there's no way they wanted the public to know this. Because this secret makes atomic war not, means you can't, you can fight one, sure, but it's illogical. Because once Russia knows this and everybody else, well, they're pre-calculating years and years ahead to the instant a bomb can go off anywhere in the world. So it's a standoff. So the only answer they had in those days was to stuff submarines with these things and let them roam the oceans. And if somebody was stupid enough to start a war like that, a submarine could stand off for 3 months if he had to, wait for that time to come up in place, and then could land one in, which they could. But what a war! I mean, it's stupid. And I think they realised they can fight a war like they did in the Gulf War, much cheaper with conventional weapons, which are very good, and forget about the bombs, and use the bomb as a political weapon, which they did. And they've told you this for years. They've got atomic cannons and they can fire these things all over the place, you know, and bomb, but they didn't. There's no record that I know of where they've tested one. In other words, it's a lie. Maybe they haven't got an atomic cannon, but it must be a heck of an accurate thing to put it on a spot exactly when the sun's looking. Theoretically can be worked, but practically impossible, I'd say. So I think they've used that publicly to sway world opinion and do all sorts of things, while behind the scenes they've been working together right through. And I've got evidence of that anyway. That America and Russia have never been enemies. Not up top, they've always been friends. And the best book to read to see that story is George Orwell's 1984. Has anybody read it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. They make each side think that they're enemies, and by doing that they can do anything they like. You know, they can arrange, suppress things and tunnel money off and build weapons and get rid of money and do what they want. And that's what's been happening. But now that they've got through all that phase, they're going to dismantle them all now. They've done their job. So they've got better weapons anyway. They've got laser bombs and they can put them anywhere they like. And they do the job cheaper and probably more, you know. They've got more of them.
When you talk about they, who do you mean by they?
Well, it's not one country. The people who are controlling all this, from what I've found, they're everybody. I've been approached by Englishmen, I've been approached by Americans, and you can't point at America and blame them. You can't point at England and blame them, or Russia, or they're all together. But it's not government. Because I've made a point right from the start, I've never hidden anything from my government. I work for my government. Not officially or anything like that, but I work for my country. And I thought if I'm going to survive, I'm never going to be subversive. And that's a stupid thing to do. I'd never do anything that would harm New Zealand. So I decided right from the start that anything happened to me, and actually that connection I had with the CIA guys, he offered me the job and I turned him down. It took me 2 days. I didn't turn him in straight away. I was tempted to job because they had. He said to me, he said, if you and your family come with us, he says, materially you'll never want for the rest of your lives. And that was the offer. But he wouldn't tell me what I was going to do, how much they're going to pay me, where I was going to be. I had to say yes first and then they'd tell me. And I said, well, I don't sign blank cheques.
And how long the rest of your life is likely to be?
Yeah, to be hounded. I couldn't talk to anybody. And I did. I thought about it for 2 days and I realised I can't live like that. I might be a millionaire, but what can I do with it? You know? Yeah. And so anyway, I went through that sort of process, and that's when I decided what I had to do. I turned them down. But half hour after I turned them down, I rang our security people. And I told them what happened. I said, well, after I thought about it, I told them, I said, I didn't make a decision straight away. I thought for a couple of days and decided it wasn't the thing to do. And I said, well, I had a funny feeling that if I said yes, I'd be committing treason. Because even though we was friendly with the people, I can't work with them undercover. It's against my country. And he said, matter of fact, he said, legally, you're probably right. You're probably creating a treasonable act. So I did the right thing. But ever since that time, I've always given copies. All this is all in the government hands. I pass a copy to everything I find. First of all, to our government people. And then I park a lot of it around the place. Everything I find, I always make a lot of copies and spread them around all over the place. Even I don't know where some of the copies are because I make sure I don't. So that they can't force that on me. And,
so you feel it's better to let everybody know about it and then everybody can sort out the yes or whatever?
well, you look over the process, right through history, you don't know what it is. The people who have superior knowledge always control everybody. And good or bad. Sometimes they're good, then you go a bit further in history and they're bad. And that goes on in cycles all the time. Well, that system's no good. I think public opinion worldwide overall is the best way to solve problems. And you've got to sort it out altogether. You can't have one little group of very, very powerful making decisions for everybody else, which is probably 99% of the rest of the world. It's not logical. If they're making a bad decision... Yeah. But anyway, I think you see my point. Good decisions, yeah, fair enough. But they make them in secret. But the bad decisions are also made in secret. And they're the ones that are harming all the world. And this is what you're trying, and Robert's trying to do now, to try and fix everything. And I'm just doing the practical bit. And I think that's better me sticking to this, because if I've got to try and prove this to everybody else, I've got to be fireproof. And what I've published, I've got to do my best to make sure it can be checked and not torn to pieces. And they have to get the same answer, and you have to get the same answer. And this comes back. If you get a different answer to me, tell me. And let's work it out and find out what the problem is. But so far, it's all working. And let's go to power stations. Now, in New Zealand, I published this in the Bridge to Infinity, but nobody's taken it up. I gave a position, but nobody's checked what the position is. And if you want to generate electro energy, you can pick a nodal point on the system, and there are only very few of these in the world. In other words, they're not scattered around here, they're not scattered around Australia. But New Zealand just happens to have one of these points. There are only 8 of these points in the world, 4 in the north and 4 in the south. If you've got a planet there, you've got a latitude there, the equator there, and the latitude there. Well, this latitude goes through New Zealand. And the latitude is 37.1, say 244 degrees south. Well, the reciprocal of that is the answer to the unibody equation. Okay, you've got a latitude line through the country here in New Zealand, but then you've got another longitude line that goes through there. Well, if you put that longitude at 174.222, I think it is, degrees east, and then take 90 degrees off it, no, 174 I should say, 174.72 I think. We'll find it. Anyway, you take half of that, take 90 off, and you get, what have we got? 84.7222. Now, if you double that, you get 169.444, which is the harmonic thing. It's a halfway. And you've got to work all these geometrics out in 90-degree arcs. It's mathematics break down if you go over 90 degrees, as you know in the tables. And so if you get a figure over 90 degrees, you take the 90 degrees off and do your harmonic calculations in that 90-degree sector. And now that position, see, if you can imagine now, there are only 4 of those 90 degrees apart in the north and 4 of those 90 degrees in the south. Now, 3 of those positions in the north are on land, 1 in the sea. But 3 in the south are in the sea and only 1 on land, and New Zealand's got it. Now, funnily enough, they've already done test drills, and they're talking about putting a power station there. So I think they know. I think it's not just chance. They just happen to pick one of the most perfect positions in the world to put a power station. And if they build it, I'd say it'll probably be a normal station. It'll be gas-powered or you name it. But for the future, that land is priceless. That can be a Tesla station. And this is what Tesla's trying to do. That's the most active nodal point for that type of thing. And if you put those 8 points and one of those stations on each of those points, you've got 8 stations that will run the whole world in a Tesla system and electrify the whole world, and put a probe in the middle of a jungle in Brazil and you've got power. And this is what Tesla's trying to do. And they've known how to do that for years, since the 30s. Tesla proved that he did it.
Yeah. I might just mention we got a video on Tesla's live, shows that research.
It's nothing new. Everything I'm telling you is nothing new. I'm only finding what they know. And I've never found anything that's new.
That transmitter in the northern hemisphere, was that Tesla's transmitter station was actually on one of those?
No, he was on Long Island. He was doing experiments, but he was picking points that were very close to those harmonics. I've published some of that actually. And he had to do what he could do in those days sort of thing. And he didn't have the backup and the technology, but he was very close to those points. And the one in Long Island was just about right on the 26944 thing when he worked it out. It wasn't perfect, it was good enough to do the job. And his California one with a big farmhouse with a thing on top, that was right, just about on the point. And funnily enough, that's where NORAD is, just a few miles away in the mountains. And they hollowed out the mountain, they've got NORAD, that controls the whole of the defence of the United States. And it's right in Colorado where Tesla was doing his experiments. And they're tuned into the whole world. And they can bring up anything anywhere in the world on the screens there. Anything that moves, they track it. So I think it's based on the Tesla thing and this sort of thing. So, yeah, the distance direct in a great circle from Hiroshima to the sun position worked out on the computer, the 3361253. And where are we? Now, when you're working harmonically in the circular stuff, well, if we want to go minutes, degrees, seconds, up the harmonics hour or down, well, we just multiply divide by 16. Well, if you want to work harmonically quickly, you don't have to worry about the naught, you just multiply divide by 6. And it'll give you the same answers anyway. So, if you take the direct distance to the sun for the Hiroshima bomb and multiply by 6 3 times, you get 726 to the square root 2694444, which is the answer to the unit equation. And the distance longitudinally gives you 169.444. And there you got your perfect harmonics. And if you read about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki drops, they had the cream of bomb aimers and pilots and everything to fly that aircraft. Now, if this wasn't so, had to be so perfect geometrically, why did they bother? They had them out there for 3 months in the desert practicing dropping bombs into a 300-foot circle, almost into a 44-gallon drum, to get accuracy. Well, they didn't need that accuracy. Any aircrew, competent aircrew, could have gone over here and just dropped the thing over the side and would have done the job anyway. You know, it didn't have to be dead centre. So, but what they're doing, they had to get these guys to drop it right on a pinpoint if they could, and they had to practice dropping it on time, because they had to be overhead that position right on a split-second timing, and they had to drop that bomb split-second, so that as the bomb was dropping, the sun was also moving into position, and when both of them matched, the thing went off. Again, I think the Hiroshima one, I think it went off a wee bit higher than it was supposed to. In other words, everything happened just a bit higher up instead of right down low where it was supposed to. But it did the job. It did another good job. So that was fine as long as one country knew the secret, nobody else did. But I think Russia knew it anyway, but they didn't have the technology at the time to do it all, but the reason America did. So it didn't matter. They could take all that time. They spent 9 months doing all the calculations, practicing and all that sort of, setting it up. And they make the excuses. They say, oh, they're going to do it on one day, but then they postpone and do it another day. Well, that's all window dressing. The initial bomb in Alamogordo, there was a lot of fuss about weather and all that sort of thing. But funny enough, when they let the bomb off, there was bad weather. And they'd already said they were going to delay it for bad weather. But they didn't delay it when there was bad weather. They let it off, and then it was fine a couple of days later, sort of thing. They could have waited those 2 days, or whatever it was. So it shows that when the time comes up, that's it. And then they've got to make excuses why did they let it off in bad weather, you know.
That doesn't apply to nuclear power stations.
Well, there are 2 types of stations. There are a breeder and a reactor.
Yeah.
Now, a reactor is what they put in the submarine. And all a reactor does is use hot fuel to boil water. Now, a reactor is not, to me, an atomic station, because all they're doing is using hot material or unstable material, which is thousands of degrees to boil water or light metal or whatever you do to make steam, to run a turbine, to make electricity. And a turbotropic station is one you can just suck pure electricity out of it without going through all those interchanges. And an atomic station is one of the worst thinking things to produce electricity with. It's very costly. It's not cheap.
So isn't the core unstable? The actual cooling in the core that keeps it from basically melting down.
Yeah, everything goes right. Yeah. But you can also read that those cores are made geometrically. All those shafts of graphite and everything else and the uranium and all that, they're all packed in long rods, and then they're all put in a geometric pattern. They don't just shove them in the heater. It's perfectly calculated. And I'm damn sure if you measured all those rods and the distances between each rod and the actual pattern that they put it in, you get all those figures.
Making of the rods, the actual producing of the unstable material.
Well, that's what they do. That's what a breeder is. A breeder station will make fuel, and they can produce plutonium, I think, in a breeder, and then they move that out and then put it in a reactor or a submarine or whatever you like, and they can move it around, but it was already being made, and they'll get more in than they put out on a breeder. But from what I've been able to find out, a breeder is actually put on a geometric point to produce fuel. A reactor is they produce the fuel, then they can use it in a reactor and move it around, just to heat something else. In other words, it's not atomic at all, it's a heater. And it's using an atomic process to heat something else with. So? I don't know. It's something I've never been able to find out, because all I know is it's not a big area. I don't know what the real crucial circle is, but I think it's pretty small. But it'll still work if you go out. But I think if they say they dropped a bomb and they weren't perfect on the spot, I think the further out from the dead centre, it becomes a dirtier bomb until it won't go. And this is where you get more fallout and really dirty stuff coming out, because it hasn't been turned into pure energy. It's got there halfway sort of thing. The rest is dust and ash and you name it. And I can't prove that either, but that's the way I see it. And I think that's why they've got to do all these tests too, because there's not one way of setting up that equation. There's a lot of permutations, ways of twisting it around. You put something in the bomb, you put it in the position, you put it in the time, you do, and there's probably hundreds of different permutations to make a bomb go. So they've got to go on for years and years doing tests. And until they found out all the different combinations, all the times, all the different things. And probably they're getting near that now because they're talking about stopping it all soon. Public opinion doesn't stop them. They've stopped because they've probably finished the job. And they don't need it anymore. But even then, I think possibly the job had to be done because they have to have that information to get out in space. I think most of the atomic testing is not anything to do with war as such. I think it's all space research. Because if you want to know all about space and matter and everything like that, well, you want to pull out the bits and look at it and do calculations, and every time they do tests, all these calculations go into central computers, and it's all computed. They've got all their data on file, and it's all filed, and it's there forever in data banks. And I'm pretty sure they do need that information to get out into deep space. I'm pretty sure they're out there now. I think they've been on the moon well before the first rocket went up. And that's filtering through the grapevine. They were there in 1934, but using this stuff. But what happens, they send the astronauts up there, they make a big fuss about it, and they suddenly stop. Now, can you imagine scientists getting that far and stopping and cutting off? No way. There was a reason for it. Those astronauts were beginning to talk. And one of the well-known tapes around the world is when they're up there, some hands picked it up. They said, oh, they're sitting around the crater. They were watching, they were parked around the crater up here when they landed. And some of those machines might have been ours or the year before them, but they were using anti-gravity stuff. And so they had to shut the program down and idle us. And every one of those astronauts, when they go around touring, remember they would come to New Zealand? And who's standing beside them all the time? CIA, intelligence. And they can't move, they can't talk. And everything they say is vetted. And so that's the way it is.
And Armstrong talked in Athens.
A couple of them said a few things. Who was the astronaut that had that thing following me around in the satellite at the time? He photographed it and it was published. Is that Cooper, was it? I don't know. But bits leak out. They can never hush everything up. And now I've got all this stuff. Well, there's very little they can do without I can check it. And now this is another thing that's come up. I used to get all sorts of requests over the last 20 odd years there from people saying, well, can you work out a grid for our part of the world, or can you make a map for me, and all this sort of stuff. Well, making a map the way I have to up till now is a long, tedious job. To make a good, accurate map, it might take 2 days, and I can't spend that time for everybody that asked me to do it. And so I just kept saying, look, I can't do it for any part of the world because it will take a computer and spherical mathematics, which is well above me at this stage, to work out properly without a computer. And you just have to wait, hoping one day we'll be able to do it. And then just over 2 years ago I was visited by an American chap. He's only a young guy. His name's Robin Wolf, and he's a computer expert. He's a programmer. He used to work for Reuters. And he spent nearly a week with me in Auckland. And we kept talking, and he had a pretty good grasp. He'd read my books, and he sort of switched on. He knew what it was all about, and he could figure out what I was saying. And so I thought, well, God, this is the guy I've been looking for. He's an expert programmer. I can give him all the information he wants. And he agreed, let's work together. So we spent over 2 years until recently to perfect a program that will calculate the grid over the whole world surface, anywhere you like. What you've got to do is put in, if you've got any area you want to look at, let's take it as a rectangle, say, over Australia, somewhere, anywhere in Australia. What you've got to do is poke in the latitude and longitude of each corner of that rectangle into the computer, and it will compute every grid point in that area for you, latitude and longitude, and spew it out of the printer with that long, and it'll give you the Earth natural latitude and longitude, grid B latitude and longitude, and grid A latitude and longitude, all on that point. Because, as you can imagine, the poles of the grid are offset to the normal geographic pole, A and B. And so therefore, if you've got a point here, you've got normal latitude and longitude like that. You might have B latitude and longitude like that, and C latitude and longitude just a wee bit out here somewhere. So in that one point, you've got 3 different answers. And this is what I've been using recently. Of course, I've had this program as it's been coming up, and I get a certain use out of it. Now we've perfected it. and it's accurate to within feet anywhere in the world. So we're marketing those next month. They're all ready to go in the market now. We're going to market them worldwide. And anyone, what you need is an IBM compatible computer with graphics if possible, because this will bring up a map of the world on the screen, and it'll show you the grid you're working out with all the little dots on it. But the thing is, you'll have to plot the points into a survey map and then join them all up to work it, because we haven't got the money to put the mapping stuff in there. It's going to cost us about $23,000 to get the mapping programs to feed into this, and then we'll be able to use maps with little dots on it and produce grids for anywhere we like.
Why are there three different latitude and longitudes they've been sorted?
Well, if you got to imagine the way that things set up. Again, you take the world, and here's the North Gradient pole, South Gradient pole. The grid pole is there, A, and then the B grid pole is there, sort of thing. And the B grid pole is, funny enough, 695 minutes apart from North Geographic, which is a reciprocal speed of light. So it's tuned into the reciprocal speed of light. But if you're thinking of latitude and longitude, here you've got North Geographic, you've got latitude and longitude there, but this is the latitude and longitude for them, and that one, and here's the latitude and longitude there for that one. It's all the same point, but they're different.
There's two grid systems.
You've got two different fields. So you've got one set of fields making one grid pattern, you've got the other set of fields making another grid pattern that are coming through it. And if you've got two magnetic lines crossing each other, well, you get vortex action. And I think they come through each other roughly probably like that. Then you have atoms and electrons and that forming out of the matrix. And in other words, the Earth's two magnetic fields are creating matter. And this is how our reality is built up. And if you play with magnets, you push two north together, there's something near. You can't see it, you can feel it though. It's a force, and there's something solid there. And they use this to make electric motors and things. But this CIA guy said, what do you think a magnetic field is? I said, I think it's unmade matter. And he said, what made you think that? And he twigged straight away, you know what I'm saying, and he wanted to go on about this. But I hadn't found this thing. But that's what I believe now. Magnetic field is unmade matter. You've got to have those two fields interlock with each other to create electrons, which are not material, they're waveforms. And the same with all matter is only waveforms, but they're interlocking fields. Well, there they are. And that's the pattern it makes. That's the grid. But that extends right from the centre of the Earth, right out the periphery and out to space. And the fields, magnetic fields outside the Earth's surface.
The same principle would apply on that universe level.
Right through the whole universe.
Right through the universe.
Yes. Everything is made out of those fields. They're either forming or breaking up, and forming and breaking up. And I don't believe in this Big Bang theory. From one thing comes and makes everything else. We've got things forming and planets dissolving and going right through the whole creation. It's a constant thing. It's going on all the time.
With this computer programming, what sort of values do you see for us? What sort of things are we going to be?
Well, I use it to check on what the other guys are doing. Because I don't know where they are. As soon as they pick a point on their surface, all I've got to do is pack that in the computer and give me all the values for the ground B. And then I can use that on the computer and find out what those harmonics are. And if they come up, well, I say, okay, well, they're working in the secret stuff, so I know what to do. There's one value of light in one of my books, 909.0655. Well, I know where there's a ginormous transmitting station that's on the latitude that gives you exactly 143.909. 0655. And it's right on, exactly on that thing. The broadcast TV signals. Pardon? Yeah, it's been there for years. Yeah. I'll let you find it out. That's a fact. See, I'm not going to tell you everything, you can do a bit of work. But if you search around in places like this, and maybe power stations and atomic stations and all those sort of things, and get the exact latitude and do a bit of work on a calculator, you'll start finding these things. You won't do it immediately to get a bit of knowledge, but I guarantee it. This is how I'm finding out. But now we've got the program, we can check anything. And this is why we want to sell it. and market it. And we're going to use the money to get more computer equipment and do more research, and I'll be able to live at the same time. So I've been doing all this for 10, 11 years and I'm getting nothing back for it, so I'm trying to use this now to generate an income, plus all the research money.
When you did your original research on the grid lines, and when we were reading in the book, found aerials.
They're still there.
On roofs. Well, did the individual people who put those aerials up understand what was
I don't think so. Because when you're working in these type
put
of...
the aerials up?
Yeah, but when you're working in these areas, you'll find that the department collides. In other words, you're only told what you have to know. And this is how they hide it. It goes right down the line, from the top guy right to the guy at the bottom. And they've got little bits of work they want done. Now, if you want a guy to transmit signals and receive them, what you do, you give him some pretty highly sophisticated equipment for free. He signs a secret act. Now, you give him some signals to send, he sends them, and then you get him to receive some signals, he writes them down and hands them in. And he didn't have to know what it's for.
These people were approached by the government. Was it the government?
Well, I don't know, I presume so. You've got to work it out for yourself. But I published as much as I wanted to, but I kept at least 2/3 back. And before I published it, I was invited by these people to go and give them a lecture. And I took the map out with all these things on it. And I had about, maybe 18 of them on the map, or 7. I pinned it on the wall, and there was at least 30, 40 guys in that room. And they all had stations. And I said, now you guys know more about this than I do. Now I'm going to publish this. Now if you don't want me to publish it, you tell me right here and now. Stand up and tell me, and give me a reason, moral reason why I shouldn't publish it. I won't. And not one of those guys stood up. So I published it. And I let the government know I was going to. And I checked it out with the authorities before I didn't ask them, and I found out that they couldn't touch them. Because I said, I want you to go and raid one of those stations because he's operating outside his licence. And I want a civilian arrest. So I wanted to test it. See?
Test it out, yeah.
And he flustered and went on, and in the end he said, I can't touch them. They're protected. And that's all we wanted to know. We walked out. Because I took a journalist in with me, he didn't know who he was. And he just sat there and listened. And so we knew that these guys were dabbling in that stuff. And it's still going on, it's all part of the thing. But at the same time, even though I'm telling you this, I'm not against it. I'm telling this, I'm not against what you're doing. I'm against you keeping it secret.
Just the secrecy,
Yeah, because we should know.
That's right. We should know it all.
I was told by the CIA, he said, this wouldn't be good for the people to know. I said, well, I am the people. Yeah, I said, I'm one of the people. And I'm just a guy off the street, and I'm not a brain. I'm not any different to you guys. All I've done is spend a lot of time on it, that's all. It's all simple, as you see. It's only simple arithmetic. There's nothing else. But,
Bruce, how much of one of these programs cost?
well, we've got on the market for 225 American. I realise that is probably $300 to $400 Australian, or a bit more in New Zealand money, but it's an American program. It's selling on the American market, so we've got to make it American wise. And of course, he's much. Rod's done all the work. He's done over 2 years work on it. And a normal program that he's worked out and taken 2 years would probably sell for about $800. And we brought it right down as low as we can for the market.
Geographical area will one program cover?
You can make it any size you like. As I say, all you've got to do, say you wanted to pick a little area like this, and all you've got to do is find the latitude and longitude of each corner of the rectangle and poke it into the computer, and it'll work it all out for that area. Or you can make it 20 miles wide, 100 miles wide if you like, or square, and just put those two corners in the computer will do the rest. And it's a beautiful program. He's made a beautiful job.
Would it be a maximum size though, I'd imagine?
No, well, the maximum size is the maximum of the wheel itself.
The whole world.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, so you can just take a piece out of it, whatever size.
But, well, actually, you could only do it for 90-degree sectors, because it won't go over 90 degrees. Yeah, you'd have to do it in those sectors and get those bits. But you could work out the whole world bit by piece, bit by bit, and put it all together. So I decided to check the moon and all the parameters of the moon, and change all the measurements, diameters and that, into geometrics, and see if I can get any harmonics. And so I picked up an astronomy book in town, and first surprise I got was this is a book called The Exploration of the Universe, and it's got a lot of data on the moon here. And when you turn the page here, there's an equation there. And funnily enough, if you take the diameter of the moon and divide it into its orbit, it goes in 695 times, which is the reciprocal of the speed of light. and there's also the gravity harmonic. So right away you've got something in the astronomy books here that back up everything I've seen, and it's in black and white. So I went further, and the moon doesn't circulate completely around the Earth, you know, in orbit. It actually circulates around what they call the Berry centre, which is inside the surface of the Earth. That's the gravity point there, where the Earth and the Moon are circulating around each other. Now, if you take the astronomy book figures and change them to geometrics, the actual distance from the gravity point within the surface to the surface, come to this harmonic here, and you end up with 69444, which is a reciprocal of 144,000, which is the speed of light max, and also a gravity harmonic. So when you start checking now the solar system and all the other things in the universe, you always come back to these figures. As I say, I'm not using a whole range of harmonics and figures to confuse you. If you check all this stuff, there's only a very few, and they're all derived from the light harmonic itself. And all you're doing is just converting from the light geometric to the gravity one, back again, or up to the magnetic field one, and they're all interlocked. There's only a very, very few mathematical basic bits of knowledge you need to check it. And it's probably going to take you a week if you don't understand all this, because it's not difficult. So I can't do it because I found it.
You've been at it long enough.
Yeah, but it's a heck of a hard to find it from scratch, but once it's found, as I say, it's simple. And if I could have all that information there 27 years ago, I could have swallowed all that in a week. It took me 27 years to find a little piece by piece. And things were very, very simple when you found the answer. It takes a long time to find the answer sometimes. But the, what have we got here?
Here's my proof, but to me the big question is, why is it being withheld?
Well, if you let one little bit out, it's like the old finger in the dike. You know, you pull your finger out and it starts to squirt. Well, what's going to happen when the dike goes in the end? And it's the same with this knowledge. If they let one little piece of this out, and someone who's a bit of a character like me that gets a bit nosy, well, you're going to keep going. You know, you found a little bit of information, well, what am I going to find next? And it doesn't take long to unlock the whole thing.
Yes, but if it does cause a massive industrial revolution, isn't that inevitable? I mean,
sure, that's why I say why keep it dark. The longer they keep all this dark, the worse it's going to be, because it's going to cost them more in the long run. But so I think the thing they don't like, if it's all let out, there's a lot of people in power positions are going to lose them, and there's a lot of high positions where it won't be needed, I suppose, if this is let out. There'll be new ones created, and it's a change. It changes a lot of things. Sorry.
Can I make a comment on that question? That you say, why is all this suppressed? Well, you might take the prophecy of in the latter days when money is the god. First of all, the power spots, we could have had free energy, but they want us to pay for it. That keeps a lid on it. Your car, your motor car, we could have had no fuel worries. Just driving on a magnetic system, or a Tesla had a magnetic motor in his car with a 6-foot aerial, 200 horsepower, but free. Travel in the aeroplanes, travel in the ships, free, on the grid line. No pay, no pay. So money is the god on the other side of the coin. Keep the people suppressed, keep them ignorant, you pay. They're the bosses, they collect. And that's been the system, but of course it's coming to an end.
Yeah, that's true. That's the main problem. That's why the suppression is going on. It's, there's a lot of other reasons, but I think the main one is monetary. Because it's, if this was let out overnight, well, there would be chaos. Well, I can see the problem. When I'm sympathised with it, and I wouldn't expect them to let this out overnight and try and change it around in a week. But I've always, my argument with the government people I've talked to and that, I say, well, the whole thing is not in government hands. It's in people who are telling governments what to do. And if the governments did have control of this, and if it was made public and the governments had full control, which they should have, And they informed the public and said, look, we'll tell you what we've got here. We've got stuff, we can change the world. We can give you a marvellous world, but let's do it in 30 years. You know, you can do a gradual changeover, and I'm quite sure the public would go with them, because if they explain, the public doesn't want to live in chaos. Nobody does. But you want to know what your future's going to be, and what's offering for the future. And I'm absolutely positive that the public would be happy to wait 30 years, you know, in gradual changeover, and just a bit here and a bit there, until in 30 years' time, you'd have a world you couldn't imagine. You know, free power and instant travel and space travel and energy for nothing. Or it wouldn't cost. It'd cost you something, because you've got to build the gear to use it. But if you just paid a nominal rent, you know, for the gear, that's all right. That's fair. But it'd be a hell of a lot cheaper than it is now. And well, that's my little speech. But there's another thing. You've heard about the place on Mars and the Mars Pyramid?
Yeah.
And the scientist I know in England who checked out my stuff sent me some data on that had been done by a chap in America for NASA. And funnily enough, when he sent me the base diagrams of the pyramid, the main one in Sidonia, just in the same group as that place on Mars, is a you probably can't see this too well because it's a photostat of a photostat of a photostat, but there's the pyramid there. You can see just one face of it. It's a gigantic thing. And but it gives the latitude that the thing's on, and the latitude is 40.868 degrees. But if one of the funny things is the actual angle here on the part of the pyramid, 69444, which is the reciprocal of the speed of light. That's just one thing. But if you take the latitude, and with this computer program that I'm talking about, the speed of light is not a constant. And as I showed you, as gravity changes, the speed of light changes with it, but in the inverse of it. So if you want to find the speed of light for any particular latitude, even a fraction of a latitude, the computer put it in the computer in this program, and it'll read it out for you in a couple of seconds. And so I did that with the data I was given, and I found, what do I end up with? We've got the speed of light in the air, speed of light for gravity, speed of light air, speed of light vacuum, speed of light maximum out of the computer. Now the speed of light for vacuum gives you 169,444, which is that figure. And that's the latitude that pyramid's built on. So if that's not true, what is? And that can't be broken as a thing. So you've got the harmonic built into the pyramid itself, and you've got the actual latitude is built on giving you the same thing out of the equations. So that tells me that pyramid over there has been built by intelligence. And it's, we might be their descendants for all we know. Mars now is a barren planet, as far as we know. There's probably some people still there we don't know about. But if something happened here, could they have immigrated to where we are and some of the other planets in the place? So you might have a Martian great-great-great-granddaddy somewhere, you never know. But that shows you that there's not just us, there's a lot of people around and they're out there. One of the major harmonics that's coming up all the time is this 16944 figure, and that's built into from the Earth's magnetic field through that thing, through 16944, through the speed of light to gravity in the table. So if we put that on the world, so the Chinese pyramid's there and the Great Pyramid's there, that angle, longitude, is I think it's 77.6 degrees. But if you measure that way, the distance between the two is 16944 minutes of arc. Now, who built them? And that's a fact. And you can't tell me that's an accident. And whoever built the Chinese ones over 5,000 years ago also built the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And they knew this science. And also, if you go to the Great Pyramid in Egypt and take the height of the King's Chamber from the ground there, it's 16944 pyramid inches. And that's in the books. You'll find it in, I'm not sure it's Davidson books or one of those books on the pyramid. So, and also the chamber of the pyramid, it's 4116 that way and 2058 something that way. You square that, you get 169,444. And I've got a calculator here if anybody wants to check it all the time. It's one of my bags.
That's the Egyptian ones,
That's the gypsum one, yeah. I don't know what about the Chinese one, I know about the position. And that one in China, the big one, how I got onto that, I was in America, and I was introduced to a guy there, and he used to lecture in the Air Force. And he managed to get me a satellite map of that area of China in Siam. That used to be the capital in China. And this is where they dug up all those horsemen underground. You've probably all heard about that area there. Well, there's 16 pyramids in that valley, all around Siam. And this biggest one is approximately 1,200 feet high. It's over twice as high as the pyramid in Egypt. Cheops pyramid in Egypt. Now, who in the Western world knows about it? And I contacted the Chinese embassy in New Zealand and said, could you give me information on this pyramid in Siam? And they wrote back and said, there's no pyramids in China. No way. So I wrote back again and I said, well, it's funny, I've got a satellite map here and there's 16 of them on it. You know? And it changed, and I published the letter in one of my books. And they said, I didn't call them pyramids, they called them trapeziums. We haven't got any pyramids, we've got some trapeziums. And, but they had to admit it because I had the map.
So are they located on a intersection in the grid?
Well, I can check them recently with the program. I'll get round to it eventually. But, I won't publish that, that's all I knew. But, these are all things you can check and see where they are. But it's funny, all the time, this harmonic pops up. And it's the connecting link between the magnetic fields and light and gravity. That's the one that goes through to connect both sides, both ways. So it's a very, very important harmonic. Actually, if you go to the Earth itself and take, the Earth has got two cores, an inner and outer core. You take the cubic content of the inner and outer core together in cubic minutes of arc, so you get 2694444. And the cubic content of the inner one is 169444. So the Earth itself is built to those harmonics. I published that too, nobody's picked it up. So these are popping up all the time, same numbers all the time.
I read an article that was just an old newspaper cutting that it came from, and it was talking about a pyramid that was found just on the coast here, just up from Cairns, behind Mossman.
I've heard about it, but I don't know where it is. I mean, people talk about it, but they don't say
don't know what that means in relation to that.
But,
since the whole universe seems to be built up out of those certain harmonics, one would expect that maybe the human body fits into the same ratio.
Have any of you read the book called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain? Look on page 208, and you'll see a paragraph there. Russians invented a light pencil, and they can move it over your body, and as soon as it's an acupuncture point, it lights up, got a little light on top. And in that paragraph, it said that they found that the number of major acupuncture points on the body is 695. It's in that book, you read it. And I didn't publish that, they did. So there's all these things, you've got to put them all together, you've got to keep searching and take out all these little bits, and you'll find that they come always back today. And that's what I keep doing, and so I concentrate on that side of it. Because every time you find something like that, they can't bust it. You just add an extra little bit to make it more powerful. That's good stuff. We're talking about the Earth, number of days in a year. Well, this is Tesla again. Tesla found that if you vibrate the Earth mechanically, the resonant frequency is 1 hour and 49 minutes. That's a long wave frequency. Now, I thought, that must be harmonic because it's an Earth frequency. So, what would happen if I divided that time into a day, say? I tried it for a day and I didn't find anything that was unusual. And I tried to divide it into a month and there was nothing unusual. But then I divided it into 365.25 days out of the astronomy books. It's a fraction here. And what I end up with 69444, which is the reciprocal of the speed of light. So one revolution of the Earth is tuned to our year of 365.25 days. And so it must have always been that. We've never had 360 days as we read in a lot of books. And they say we got swiped by Venus and it's speeded us up and all this rot. That's not true. Because that proves it. It's, the Earth is finely tuned to all the harmonics of creation, and it'll always be that way. If that goes to 365 and they knock the quarter off, the Earth is going to start wobbling, and if it goes with more and more and more, it'll disintegrate. So it's tuned to it. And if you take the area of the cross section right through the centre of the Earth, you get the reciprocal of the unified equation. If you check the volumes of the inner and outer core, you get the answer to the unified equation in the 16944 figure.
What is the unified equation?
Well, E equals square root
Oh, that one that you
2c, yeah, plus the square root of 1 over 2c by 2c all squared. Now, to get all these answers, there are different values you can put into that equation. It'll give you E. The speed of light gravity is 143,791.36 minutes of arc per second. Speed of light in air is 143,816.9, I think. Speed of light vacuum is 891.36, and then the maximum is 144,000. But depends what they're doing, and this is what a UFO does. It doesn't use one particular speed of light. Now, I thought that when I wrote my first books, I thought there was one fact. I believe what they told me, that speed of light is a constant. It's not. It depends where you are and what you're doing. And if you want to play around with gravity, you feed the gravity factor in the end of that equation. And the answer to the equation, if you use the gravity figure, is 269,35706. And the maximum will give you 269,7 something, I think. They're the two extremes, and you've got all the others in between. That 269,444 figure comes in if you reduce the maximum by that harmonic constant, which is in the geometry books and the mathematics books of 1618034, and which they call the golden section or the golden mean, and that's a well-known constant. But that's another thing. Mathematically, if you take phi multiplied by pi over 3, now phi is 1618034 multiplied by 3.141597 over 3. What do you get? You get 169,442 something. So you can use prime physics value and get that harmonic. It's not an arbitrary thing. And so I've got a calculator, you can put it on the calculator, that's what you get. So it's once you start delving into this, it's amazing. It's all coming back.